Our next guest is Kim McBride. Kim is a knowledge expert on educational materials. She can speak with authority through her research, her speeches, her writings, and her willingness to speak across Alberta and outside of Alberta on the top of the impact of SOGI in the classroom. So please welcome Kim McBride.
Oh, thank you very much, Daryl. Okay, good. I don't want to have to be turning around to look where my slides are at, so I'm going to keep it here. So I'm actually with Action for Canada, so thank you, Torry, for mentioning that, and I'm so grateful that you, along with tens of thousands of others across the country, are taking that education and then putting it into practice. That's the point of our grassroots organization we started, particularly during what we saw as overreach and tyranny during the COVID. That's where we kind of rose up, and we're serving our fellow Canadians to deal with what are your rights, how do we push back, how do we get involved in politics, not just politics, but just, you know, the moral and cultural sphere, and not just leaving it to those knowledge experts. So I think it's so funny when it's when I'm the SOGI expert, I'm like, oh, good God, no. But I do have a lot of knowledge, unfortunately, because I have had to look at the materials, if you even call them that, so that we can speak authoritatively. It's not just making it up here. And unfortunately, we have to look at that information. We have to bring it out into the light, and we have to say, okay, is this okay, people? Let's have a conversation. And it's really sad that we can't just have a normal conversation about it without it getting spun and turned into, oh, you hate this person, you hate that person. It's all, and you saw those comments, this is a hate-filled whatever. It's like, let's just talk about some facts here. But there's a reason for that, because it's actually a psychological technique. And so, you know, it's not a surprise. And when you look at it, and as you watch these kind of techniques being used in various different theaters, then you spot it the second it shows up. You're like, oh, there it is, they're using that technique again. Oh, they're using fear, they're using whatever. So, and when I talk about the they, we definitely have an understanding of who that they might be. So Action for Canada, as you said, and I'm just, just put it out there transparently for you all. We're a Christ-centered, Bible-believing organization dedicated to preserving the rights and freedoms of Canadians. We believe fundamentally that our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and that makes us, sets us apart from totalitarian regimes. And in fact, you have the freedom to believe or not to believe as an individual, and you have a responsibility within society to engage in the democratic process, and that has actually been the strength of our foundation, and it is definitely the thing that is being undermined and attacked. Now, it doesn't mean everybody has to be a Christian to be in Canada, but it just means that the values that are inherent in our in the supremacy of God and the rule of law, that's like right at the top of our Constitution, it means something, and so I just really want to put that out there as something important that people understand. You just accept it and work within it. Okay, so there's 4 key campaigns that we work on, and I'm going to go through these really fast. Action for Canada has seen this. We often, people say, okay, well, this is like, where's this coming from? It just seems evil, and and there's just a lot of confusion around where did this come from? All of a sudden, I was living my life, and then there's pornography in the school. I said, what? And so I'll go through some of that, and it's about that weaponization, because it's very strategic. So we have 4 main campaigns that we work on. Comprehensive sexual education, which is known as SOGI 123 here in Alberta. It started in BC in 2017, around there, and then it quickly leaped into Alberta in around 2018. I might be off a little bit on those dates, but it's relatively new. Before this time, when I was involved in all this, I was a teacher in the school system here in Calgary, and it was like, wait, what? SOGI? Who's a SOGI team lead? Like, what are you talking about? And it just hit even the staff. Like, all the teachers are like, all of a sudden we have a SOGI team lead, and it just came out of nowhere. It's like, what is this about? Do we have anybody that's really struggling? And yes, there was people there was children that definitely had gender dysphoria, gender identity issues in general. I worked in a junior high, and I talk about identity issues. Like, every single teenager has identity issues. So, you know, it was just definitely strategic and powerful, and it came in. So yes, there's lots of great teachers, but they're dealing with this stuff that's coming in. So we also talk about the the UN, or the Unsustainable Developmental Goals with the cities. We're trying to activate churches, faith communities, and pastor networks, because there's a real attack on just, like I said, Christianity and in religion, really, and then parenting and schooling, homeschooling. We're really pushing for parents to take control of the education of their children once again, because of what is going on in the public system and even in the private system. Okay, so the next thing is, what's the problem? Well, I'm only going to focus on the SOGI and the education piece. The problem is, we've got almost like this hydra, you know, this beast that is all from a single source and has multiple tentacles coming out of it, or multiple faces. Okay, we can go on to the next one. So there's this problem, and what is that problem? The problem is that there is a very real push for a globalizing control over the planet. And if you don't believe me, I don't know where you were in the last 4 years. Okay, so let's just start right there. There's such a coordination on the globe for power, control, and I won't go down that path, but the global control is what they're going for through local governance. Bypass the Canadian Constitution, bypass the provincial jurisdictions, and get right down to the municipalities, the school boards, because they're the closest to the people. This is a Marxist technique. It was done, it's a Maoist technique, also done in China in the Cultural Revolution. We have it going on here in Canada right now. It has to be confronted and at least addressed and talked about. So there is a weaponization of bureaucracy that's happening. And what does that mean? It means that these non-governmental organizations, like the UN, become captured, weaponized, or strategically used in order to cut in and undermine the foundations of typically Western liberal democracies. So they want to get a hold of the people. So they're doing this through the children. So the next one here, that weaponizing of the various theaters. So when I say theater, I mean like theater of war. We're talking, this is warfare. It's psychological at this point, and maybe they can come roll right in and not even have to fire a bullet, because they'll just capture certain strategic institutions. School boards and elected officials, even regulatory bodies, we see that with the doctors, financial institutions, surveillance cities, also known as smart cities, 15-minute cities. Let's do land use bylaw. Let's just do, you know, everybody is common zoning. I don't know if you heard that's going on in Calgary, right? Everybody, doesn't matter if you put a skyscraper beside you, because it's all common zoning and nobody gets to have input anymore. Yeah, media, legal, business, and this part here, the partnerships between ESGs and DEIs. These are all the buzzwords that come with this Marxist march, as I put it. And they're going for the family, because the family is the foundation of any society, strong families. And that the best place for children to grow up and be raised in, the best ideal, is mom and dad together with them. Now, that's not always the case for everybody, as we know, and of course that's not the ideal, and of course we have to support people, but the fact is that's what people are going for. So that's why we protect families. So we'll just go through those real quick if you just want to put all of those up. Indoctrination in schools. So this is where it's coming in. It's coming in through the 17 UN Sustainable Goals, global citizens and agents of change. These are the buzzwords that they use. And now that you know a little bit more about it, you can look for it in all the literature that comes out. The CSE, here in Alberta it's SOGI, in Ontario it's WIN, in the Maritimes it's Beyond the Basics. But it's the same Hydra. Again, it's the same beast. Shift the name, same lingo when you look at all of their toolkits. And by the way, haven't you heard toolkits? Chrystia Freeland always has a tool, right? To get more into your pockets. I'm just saying, she's used that word a lot. The tools. We have tools in our tool belt. I'm like, I'm tired. Take her tool belt away from her. What other tools has she got in there, right? Sorry, I digress. The other thing that they're moving along is critical race theory. And again, that's a divisive technique to pit white Christian males way down here, and everybody else is the oppressed class, and they get to be flipped to the top. So it's part of that intersectionality. It's a whole study in science. It's all through our universities, and of course, they're teaching the teachers, and the teachers go in and become activists on this. And it's all Marxist. UNDRIP is also one where they are, and that's for another topic, but that's where they're actually weaponizing Indigenous people with Indigenous issues, like the issues that really do need to be addressed. They get pushed aside so that they can be used and weaponized for their objectives. So there's a war on children. Bottom line, I just wanted to have that slide up there so you could see that documentary. All of this is on our website, so it's worth the deep dive. You have to do the time to do it. You have to give yourself the time to research this stuff, and then you will take action like Torry did. You will be motivated. The next one, I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's going to be on the big screen. But that's seriously what is happening. They are weaponizing a particular people group and minority group. And they're weaponizing the LGBT community. Lots of people are saying, I want LGB without the T. You know, I don't want LGBT in the Q, because the Q means queer, and the queer means everything is queered, and there's a whole queer theory on that. And so that's real. That comes in, that has nothing to do with the people, it has to do with weaponizing the ideology. And look at what that precious little kid, he was just like appalled. So the next one, what are they doing? They stole their innocence, because the belief system here is that children are sexual from birth. That is from Alfred Kinsey, who put that forward. Do you believe that they are sexual from birth? No. Like, come on. Who said that was like, what do they call judicial notice on that? Who gave judicial notice that children are sexual from birth? We never had the conversation. And because that's the foundation of the belief, they want to sexualize children from the earliest possible stages. And that way it forms and breaks up their identity according to their purposes. So they get to rob the future. If you get the children, you get the future. Very communist in its rhetoric. The next one, they are also having this war on the vulnerability, on the vulnerable. So gender dysphoric children that may or may not be may or may not be trans identifying. But they are, like we heard earlier, they're fast-tracked onto this path because it suits a narrative. And so, without any due process, any due consideration. Okay, so the next thing here is that there's a war on parents. Okay, and so then, like I said, the family is what they're trying to break apart because that holds a society together, because parents will die for their children, right? If you can break children away from their parents, they're sitting ducks, and every tyrannical government has used that technique in the past, and there's all kinds, left and right, it doesn't matter, fascism and Nazism, all the way over to communism. It's the same tyranny, whatever way. So I want you to see this like little diagram here. We often have the assumption it's you and your child and the world. Okay? So what they're actually trying to do is take you and your child and separate you. And then you'll see where the school goes right in the middle there. That's what's the problem in education. So you as a parent, you must fuse yourself to the child and know everything that goes on with your child when you turn them over to the doctor, the psychologist, or the teacher at school. There is no knowledge expert better than you as the parent over your child. Okay? You know your child. You must be involved. But they want to break you out of there, and they're actually making legal grounds, they're moving into the legal grounds to do that. And like even conversion therapy ban. Of course, nobody wants anybody tortured and converted against their will on any sort of therapy, but now we have conversion therapy. We have maybe people that are identify as gay, lesbian, but nope, they must be born in the wrong body. And so actually, that whole identity is totally erased, and you must all be, you know, this trans identity. And it's more cult-like than anything. So there's some solutions. One of the things on the next slide, what we do with Action for Canada is we educate. When you become powerful with the knowledge, you put it to practice and you speak intelligently with the same words. And we have done so much deep diving and research that you can use the words to disarm the arguments back, which are really just more rhetorical than they are based in any sort of substance or any science at all. Okay, so I just wanted to put those up there as an example. The next slide is just where you land. Okay, so on their website, if you go to political LGBTQ, we also have political Islam. We have things that have been politicized because it's a weaponization. And so it's a group of people that want to gain control and create division are making use of. So I just wanted you to see that if you're ever going to watch anything, those are the first two things to watch. Each one is about an hour long. Tanya has done a deep dive on the tools, and so I knew I didn't have a lot of time today, so I just wanted to blitz you with some places to go. The next one, the slide, there's a report here, Stop the Global Agenda to Use Children as Agents of Change. And so there's a link there, you'll be able to see that icon on our page. And it says whether it's political trans LGBT agenda, it's the critical race theory, it's the climate change propaganda, the agenda is to target children and use them as agents of change. They actually use that wording in so much of their literature. You're an agent. You know, you can make decisions for yourself without your parent, you yourself. And so I really want to say that the LGBT community has been hijacked by radical activists. That's what's happening. It's a hijacking of legitimate social advancement that might have been necessary. I don't really want to weigh in on that because it's not been my lived experience, right? But I'm just saying that maybe there's some legitimacy there that needed to have perhaps political solutions, perhaps otherwise, but we couldn't have the conversation because it got hijacked and it got put into this realm of the absurd. So I just wanted to kind of bring that out. They're also doing that with Indigenous people, so that you never get to the real issue. You can still have in Canada, you can have reserves that still don't have water. Like, what are you talking about caring for Indigenous people when you can't even get water, when we have like the second most abundant water sources in the world in this country? But anyway, again, I digress. So there are legitimate concerns, though, and significant objections to the ever-increasing amount of political propaganda associated with this LGBTQ2+ sex activist lobby initiated by the United Nations under the Comprehensive Sexual Education. And so they said that every member nation has to sign on to it. Well, we are a member nation. That's the problem. And it comes in at the top and it goes right down to the bottom. And this is how it comes in. So the next one here is the SOGI toolkits. Remember I said toolkits? Whenever you hear toolkits, start doing this, right? Or just be like, hold on a minute. Who built your toolkit and who put the tools in there? Like, who's the people? And what are you intending to do with your tools? So in BC, they have a SOGI toolkit. Here you can see on the slide, this one here is actually the Alberta-specific SOGI website. I'm just going to say to you, go there. Read their stuff. They will spell out exactly how they want to roll out the indoctrination. And it has nothing to do with some legitimate concerns. It has everything to do with, we need to move people from one belief system to another, and it has to be ours, right? So that's where you would go to find that. In Alberta, it's called PRISM. PRISM is a book. It's a resource that have ready-made plans for teachers. And so you're like, oh, I gotta deal with this SOGI, I gotta integrate it in everything I do, I don't have time for this, let's go get this resource. And then boom, there's not really due oversight on it because, you're trying to check your boxes that you've been the right kind of teacher. And so that PRISM one, we're going to do a deep dive on that. On our website, we've done the deep dive on the BC SOGI toolkit, and we'll show you exactly where, with highlighting, this is where the indoctrination is, and this is our commentary on it, and this is what we're going to be doing here with the PRISM toolkit. We have one for elementary, and we have one for high school. Now, this one says, toolkits for safe and caring discussions about sexual and gender minorities at the elementary level. Well, sex ed isn't even introduced in the curriculum until grade 4. Okay? So I know, I was a former teacher, it's not there, and it's puberty, it's the body changes, that's it. There's no other stuff added on. And when you see the little video on there, they'll say, oh, there's things that are left out of the curriculum and things that we can put into the curriculum. And so it's always this strapping on. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this phases. What can we do I wanna give you something. You must be educated. You can't just come and go, oh, here's Kim, the knowledge expert. I'm really sorry that I had to become a knowledge expert on this. But, and what we've been working on in Manitoba, no kidding, flip pornography. Okay, so like, I know, and I can show it to you if you don't believe me. And we do put it on our website so that behind screens, like I have it here, I have those books that you're saying, okay, there's not really pornography in school. I actually have to put it behind a cover that says, by the way, this is really sexually explicit, but this is in the school. There's one called Gender Queer, and that one actually shows a minor engaged in a sexual act, full on display, fully written, fully drawn, of a minor, presumably maybe with another minor. But that is a depiction of children involved in a sexual act. That is pornography. It's here in these pages. Okay? I'm sorry, but it's here. It's also on our website with a disclaimer. We don't want to be pushing pornography, obviously, but we want people to know that this is what's going on. So, be educated. We need people in Calgary. I've got a great team that started now with chapters across the country. Like I showed you that map. We have those little flags everywhere. Those are people groups. In every community, we want to get right across in every riding, federally and also in every municipality, so that we can get people who are like-minded who'll just put some boots on the ground and do one little action further to become aware and know the lingo to push back. Because there's more of us than there are of them. We just need to be encouraged that we can get together. So please come to our monthly meetings. We have them about the first of the month, and I send out an email to everybody in the Calgary area inviting people to get more of this information when I can go into more of a deeper dive. But we need people to send out those flyers, just education, just drop those flyers, put them in a druthers. I love druthers. And Trevor's here with his druthers. And so you put those into flyers and you just put them in, cafes. Just happen to leave the newspaper there and you can put a flyer that people go, oh, I didn't even know. And for example, did you know that there is a 4,500% increase in gender dysphoria with girls since 2018? A 4,500% increase in gender dysphoria for girls. Okay? So if you know the science of all of that, it was always typically boys and it was always younger, and they tended to resolve it, oftentimes going on to have a homosexual orientation later in life, but they would be okay in the skin that they were in by the time they made it through puberty. If you left them alone, supportive environment, but you weren't pushing anything on them, they just kind of resolved it. They lived in a healthy body without perpetual hormone replacements and such. So write letters. So when you know some stuff, if you do a deep dive on our website on this particular issue, start writing the letters. Start talking to the ministers and start talking to your writing MLAs as well. Serve a notice of liability, so we do have that document. And it's also a way of educating the elected officials. Because just like teachers, we're like, what's this SOGI? And you're left in a little bit like wondering, where does this come from? And you just don't feel like you have the knowledge, so you don't do anything about it. But if we can educate elected officials, they'll go, oh, I can find a way to make this better. And I think, definitely Premier Smith made those steps and those gestures towards that. It's our opinion that she needs to go further, and we need to get these NGOs, particularly SOGI and it's run seriously by ATA. ATA was integral and involved with the development of that PRISM workbook, and Jason Schilling. Anyway, you can write letters of complaint. You can write letters of complaint to these organizations as well to say, what are you doing? Like, where's your science? Show it to me. You know, challenge them. Because if you don't challenge them, they'll just like, oh, nobody cares, so I'm just going to keep going and see if I can push the envelope. Okay, so social media, use it. When you see these comments and these news reports, interject your comment. And then say, oh, I know a resource for you. Here you go. And get involved in that. Research, evidence collection, we've heard about that. Find those books, find the evidence and say, this is not okay. Deliver packages. Equipping, come to meetings. Request delegations, go to school board meetings, network with policymakers like we're doing, engage with elected officials. They're not the enemy, they are human too, and they need to be educated. So we can empower, we can meet with ministers, develop policy, public speaking, running for office, and serving in our communities. We have to get more engaged in our communities. So I just will go over that really quick. Yes, write NDP, write to them. Let them hear what you have to say and say, are you aware? I'm going to put this in the public record because most of them are sitting up in Edmonton, right? Edmonton's filled with NDP, so everybody in Edmonton should be writing to their elected official and telling what they think. Write to the ATA and say, come on, you know, what are you doing? Finally, wins, okay? So like I said, there's this global through the local. Guess what? We are winning across the country with the local pushing back the global. Because we can't take on everything. We can take on what we're most passionate about and what's right in front of us. So this team, this lovely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beautiful human beings in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, took on the SOGI as soon as they heard that SOGI was going to be rolled through the prairies, because, you know, Alberta's doing it, so I guess Saskatchewan has to do it. As soon as we heard that they were scheduled to have it roll out in the fall of last year, this team got together and was scurrying to get that information in the hands of policymakers. Lots of divine appointments for that to happen, including a 14-year-old boy taking home sex cards. Sex cards that were so kinky, A to Z, I couldn't get to D. Honestly. Almost 50 years old here, I'm like, I can't read anymore. And in the cards it says, oh, this is just for the LGBT youth. I'm like, forget LGBT. This isn't for any youth. Why are you targeting a particular group of people to sexualize them in the most debased way? And honestly, it was terrible, but it got trumped. It got, well, maybe I shouldn't use that word. It got one-upped. It got one-upped in Manitoba. And so I just want to say that, in fact, Premier Moe and also then Education Minister Dustin Duncan, they pivoted right away. They responded to the people in Lumsden, a little conservative community that was outraged that these cards would even be there. Well, we knew that that wasn't the only time that it happened. It happened in BC, and it happened another time in Lower Mainland BC. And so, here. Yeah, and it's here as well. Yeah. So they sneak them in because it's an agenda to just go, ooh, let me show you. It's kind of like, it is definitely a grooming technique. Okay, last but not least, oh, this is at the bottom here. I just wanted to, can you go back to the last slide, and then this is it. The last slide at the bottom, it says a petition. Petition to end porn distribution in Manitoba schools. So if you go home tonight, I know it's going to be a little distressing for some of you maybe to see it, but it is full-on gay pornography set in the context of Indigenous awareness. So they are putting all of these vulnerable people groups together, and they are exploiting it. The person in it is definitely a younger looking man and an older man. So you've got that pedophilic relationship as well. And so literally 58 pages to show how to put a condom on, apparently. That was the educational reason to put it in there. You flip the pages, and it's animated, it's a cartoon, but when you flip the pages, the entire sex act is animated for you. That was in Verdun Institute in Verdun, Manitoba, total conservative neighborhood. And it got slipped in there because an organization called CERC, Sexual Education and Resource Center of Manitoba, has an agenda. They're not governmental, but they are paid for by Canada Health and also Manitoba government. So yes, the principal is mortified, so are many of the trustees, and we've been in contact with them, mortified, and that not just because they're Christian, I don't even know if they are necessarily, I'm thinking they might be, but it wasn't them necessarily, but the oversight wasn't in, it just got slipped in. You see it, there was a whole device that could be taken home, and again, a 16-year-old boy, thank goodness for teenagers. I taught them for like 21 years, and especially those boys are like, ooh, I'm gonna snag that. So it was on display, and all the books were free for everybody, but also there was a phallic device to show how to put a condom on. And that got to be taken home. Like, that literally happened in a school. It literally happened. So please go there, do the deep dive, you'll see on that. And then last but not least there, Rise Up Canada. Rise up parents and leaders. There's some of you out here, I know that. From all faith groups and backgrounds, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for the good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke. Join organizations who are working to make the difference. Volunteer, donate, write letters. Thank you from the team of Action for Canada. Protecting rights and freedoms. Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. So let's bring that back in.
There's a lot of information there. I don't know that I have enough hours in the day to sit at my computer and watch those videos, but it seems that one needs to take the time. One needs to take that moment when they were going to do something else and actually educate yourself about the situation. I want to just, I'm going to draw something a little different out of what she said, and I want to talk about the ATA. And I know this is a verboten topic because they're incredibly influential. And you said someone's name at the ATA. Can you say it out loud again?
Jason Schilling, president of ATA.
So there is a political action committee at the ATA. The guy's name is Kent. Kent phoned here to this cinema and threatened Natalie's business. And they threatened other school teachers that they had to withdraw their events from this cinema in the month of April. And that is a very big event because they play a movie here, there's popcorn involved. It's a big ticket item for Natalie. So what I would like you to do tomorrow is I would like you to phone the ATA office. And I would like you to call out Kent. And I would like you to call them out like the cowards that they are, that they're trying to choke the life out of a small business for speaking up for families and for parents. So that's tomorrow. Call the ATA. The guy's name is Kent.
I know him. I just want to say this. When I was still teaching, the ATA used the Calgary Board of Education website, internal mail, to send their propaganda when it was time to vote for NDP. So they are so in the tank for NDP. And the third-party relationship, there's a lot of funny business there. So I'm just saying, yeah.
That did not come from me as the president of Calgary Lougheed UCP.
There you go. I was a member, and I'm like, I don't support any of this, and why is my members' dues going for it? I had no choice. I was a teacher, so.
Okay, big round of applause for Kim McBride. Kent, ATA. All right, just in case you forgot his name is Kent, and he's at the ATA. Our next speaker is really a gentleman who is pushing hard for the rights of parents. And I know for the